when you ask the question to somebody, right, what is the thermodynamics? Usually somebody will answer like it is something which is related to some temperature, right? So if we are wanting to study the effects of temperatures, right, on a body or on a system, such kind of, study is known as thermodynamics. It's a general, terminology who doesn't know the ACD about it. But when you add the engineering to it, right, that means you are applying the concept of the basic thermodynamics for the engineering application where you are designing the systems for effective utilization of energy, or you can say effective power transmission or power conversion. So we can say that engineering thermodynamics is the branch of science which deals with the design and development of the system or devices for effective power conversion or effective energy conversion. And this thermodynamic terms basically was derived from two terms, right? It is having two terms in between, thermo separate and dynamic separate. So we can say it is the study of heat in motion, right? Thermo means heat. Because of heat, temperature will generate, right? So because of heat, temperature will come into effect. And once motion is happening, so how motion usually happens? Sometimes it happens naturally, and sometimes it is a forced motion, right? Let's suppose if you want to transfer, heat from high temperature side to lower temperature side, you no need to spend extra, energy on it. Naturally, it will flow from high temperature end to the low temperature end. Reverse, if you want to go to the reverse direction, if you want to transfer, heat from low temperature end to the high temperature end, naturally it will not happen because it is opposite to the nature. So you need to spend some extra energy on it to make it to happen. So like in the case of domestic refrigerator, we used to see, all right, so there what we are basically doing, we are maintaining the temperature within that is closed region lower than the temperature of surrounding. So that is only possible if we are trying to remove the heat right out of the, that device. So how you are removing the heat? You are removing with the help of a compressor. So compressor is there. So for that you are supplying the power. So you need to supply the work, or you need to supply the power in order to transfer heat from low temperature end to the high temperature end. But reverse of it is will happen naturally. Usually in all the engines, you see heat always flows from high temperature end to the low temperature end. So that is the natural way. So thermodynamics is having two terms, right? Thermo means heat, and dynamics means motion. That means we are, going to study the motion of heat and its interaction on the substances or on a body. If it is a system, it is a body. If it is any liquid or any kind of gas, then it is a substance. Over that, what is the effect of heat? That is the part of the thermodynamics. So how actually that heat is getting generated with the help of some sort of energy. And when we say about energy, energy is the ability to make a change. If you want to make a change in the physical condition of any environment, so you need to change any one of the parameters. We usually know there are pressure, temperature, and volume. These are the some fundamental we say properties. If you change any one of these, that will have a direct impact on other properties as well. So if by any means or external things, if you are changing any one of those properties, the force that you are applying for making the change is called energy. So energy is having inherent ability to make a change to a given environment. So we define energy is something which is capable of making change to the system, or you can say energy is something, the ability of producing some work. So this is the basic concept, right? That is called conservation of energy principle that you might have gone through in 10+2 basic concept, right? That is called energy cannot be created, not destroyed. It can only transform from one form to the another form. If we talk about the universe, the entire energy of the universe remains constant because nothing is going beyond that, right? So we don't know exactly the boundaries of the universe. If somebody will ask what is the boundaries of universe, we don't know. But all the systems are coming within that, umbrella of universe. So whatever energy interactions will be happening, that will be happening only within the systems or within between system and the surroundings. And the surrounding is enclosed by the universe, basically. So if we say energy, total energy, where energy is happening, so total energy of the universe is always constant. So from there, this law came, conservation of energy principle. So common statement, usually we say energy cannot be created or destroyed. So based on this, in engineering application, the application of this principle is called first law of thermodynamics. So first law of thermodynamics is another expression of conservation of energy principle. And this is the first law of thermodynamics which talks about like energy is a thermodynamic property of a system, right? If any system is there, for that energy is only the thermodynamic property which will make the change. So what are the application areas? So there are various application areas where we can use the concept or knowledge of thermodynamics, right, in design and development of refrigerators, design and development of aircraft engines, right, in industrial application, like if you are designing the thermal power stations, right, all the, components which will experience high temperature, applications, there we can use the concept of thermodynamics to design them. Right, like gas turbine, complete gas turbine power plant, if you want to design, you have to focus on each and every component of it. Like main component is combustion chamber of a gas turbine, which need to be properly designed. If there is any flaws in the combustion chamber, you may not be able to generate sufficient amount of energy out of it. So when there is a loss in the combustion chamber, you may not get the rated, power, expected power generation from that gas turbine plants. Similarly, this exhaust is also, when you are designing the exhaust, you need to look at how effectively, your heat flow is taking place in that. So between the blades, right, how much amount of, spacing needs to be given, right? So blade design also, when you are doing for any kind of thermal power station or exhaust thing, there you have to carry out the heat flow analysis to, design the blades of the exhaust fan. So there are various application areas where you can utilize the knowledge of the thermodynamics. So how to study this? There are two ways in which you can study the heat flow. Either you assume like there is a certain volume of gas, and every gas, whatever gas, if you consider substance also, every substance is having n number of molecules in this because they are made of the molecules, either solid or liquid. Every substance is having its own molecules. So let's suppose if I am saying it is a 1 liter of liquid which is flowing right from one point to the another point, liquid may have a number of molecules. If somebody is looking at the behavior of each and every molecules while they are traveling from one point to the another point, and he's trying to measure right changes in temperature, changes in energy, that kind of study is called as microscopic approach, because you are going at microscopic level and measuring all the properties, and finally you are saying that this is the net change of heat transfer happening, or this is the net increment in temperature is happening while the flow of fluid has taken place from one point to the other place. So in that case, problem is much more complicated because you need to focus on a number of molecules, and when you are trying to write out the expressions for all this behavior of entire flow domain, you will be requiring more than 1,000 or more than maybe 2,000 equations. And when you are going to solve that, it is very tedious, right? You need to have high-end computer programs to solve those equations to come up with conclusion that this is the net amount of heat transfer, this is the net amount of increase in temperature or increase in volume is taking place in that given domain. So usually we do not prefer that approach, even though that is a more accurate approach, right? Which will give you the accurate value, exactly what is happening to the system. But as we are dealing with the engineering, and engineering basically was derived particularly to make your things very simple. So if we are going by that way, it is very complicated. Then means for a single system, right? You will have to spend more than 10 or 20 days, right, to analyze it, and finally you will be writing the reports that these are all outcomes of the given flow domain. So it is very time consuming, and usually we do not prefer that. And this engineering thermodynamics basically deals with the overall behavior of the fluid domain or heat domain. And when we are talking about the overall fluid domain, that means you are not considering the effects at the molecular levels. So if I am saying there is a 1 liter of water which is flowing from one point to another point, I am considering only that volume, and I am just focusing on the boundaries of that that water region. I'm not looking at what is happening in between the molecules, right? In what way temperature profile is deviating between molecules. So I will be measuring only at the boundaries, all the temperature, all the all the velocity. If I want to measure the velocity, I will measuring only at the boundary, not within the system. All right. That means at exactly boundary, whatever changes are taking place, I will say this is the overall changes in the system, and such kind of approach is known as macroscopic approach, or you can say the total approach or overall approach. And in engineering thermodynamics, we are only taking this kind of approach. So there are two approaches: macroscopic approach and microscopic approach. And macroscopic approach is also known as classical thermodynamics. And we say that microscopic approach has statistical thermodynamics, where statics will come into the picture. We'll have a number of equations. When you are solving that, we'll have to use the knowledge of statics, right? So in this case, to study the thermodynamics that doesn't require any knowledge of behavior of individual particles or molecules, it provides a direct and easy way to solution of engineering problems and is used widely. So in all the engineering application, we do prefer only macroscopic approach. And statistical thermodynamics, it is also known as microscopic approach. It is based on the averaging behavior of large groups of individual particles. So once we have taken the 100 equations, and based on every equation we got some idea, we will take the average of all the 100 equations to come at the conclusion that this is the overall changes in temperature, this is the overall changes in the energy on a given domain. So it is slightly tedious, time consuming, so that's why we do not prefer usually microscopic approach. We prefer only macroscopic approach. And only for macroscopic approach, we can define easily the properties of the system, right? So in this engineering thermodynamics, throughout the study, we will be following only the macroscopic approach. Next one is continuum, right? So as I said that every substance is having a number of molecules. If you look at the position of molecules, that will be different for different substances. If you are talking about solids, they are very close packed, right? If it is a liquid, slightly distance apart. If you are saying gases, then widely distance apart, right? There is a lot of gaps between the molecules, and they interact with each other. Sometimes they will collide, sometimes they will try to come up on the surface. If it is a gas, in that case molecules of freely free movements will be more, right, in the case of gases. So there is an approach, right, when if you want to study the behavior of gases, right, then as per the macroscopic approach, you need to assume like this gas, even though it is having a number of molecules, we will disregard the molecular nature of the given domain, and we just take the overall, we can consider the system as a continuous homogeneous without any macroscopic holes, so that molecules are not coming out, and we will assume like a continuous domain which is flowing from one point to the another point, and directly we are taking the measurement. Such kind of concept is known as a concept of continuum. So continuum allows us to treat a system, right, as a continuous homogeneous throughout its length, without any information of its molecules. So we do not bother about the molecules, even though every substance is having molecules, right? In gases, some molecules may come at the surface. As I said that there is a lot of free motions in the gases. So we disregard the molecular nature of the substance, continuous homogeneous throughout of length. Such kind of analogy is known as continuum approach. So that is only possible if you are selecting the size of a system much bigger than the free path of the molecules. Say free path of the molecules is this much. If you are taking a system much higher in size, so much bigger in size than the mean free path of the molecules, then you can say this is complete region can be considered as a continuum. So these are the two important points to be noted with. All right. So first thing is we are disregarding the atomic nature of the substance, and we are assuming, right, this substance as a continuous homogeneous matter with no holes, right? This philosophy is known as continuum, and that is only possible if the size of the system is greater than the mean free path of the molecules in the system. If your size of system is less than this, then you cannot treat that a system as a continuum. And all the macroscopic approach that you are going to apply are valid only for the continuum, the system in continuum. So continuum ideology allows us to treat the properties, right, of the system as overall properties, or we can say that as a point function. We'll define this later on. All right. So macroscopic approach is applicable to only those systems. Those can be considered as continuum. If that is any system which is violating the continuum, analogy, that means we cannot apply the macroscopic approach to that. Then you have to apply the microscopic approach to come at the conclusion that these are the net effects which are happening due to this given domain of the fluid. So let's come to the system, as we are too much talking about system everywhere. So now we'll define the system and its control volume. So system can be defined as a certain quantity of matter or a region in space. General definition says that it is a quantity of matter or a region in space chosen for study. So when you are talking about quantity of matter, that means you are fixing the mass of a certain substance, and then you are defining the system. You are defining the system in such a way that its mass is not going to change, only energy transfer will take place. That means such kind of system will be called as closed system, because closed system will have only property that no mass can cross the boundary. But if it's an open system, in that case everything can go beyond the boundary, it can cross the boundary, it can enter into the boundary. So the second statement of this region in space, when you are selecting a certain region in space, let's suppose if I want to study the behavior of air flow, right, in open channel, I do not know the boundaries exactly for the channel. So what I will do, I will fix certain volume. So I will take a volume of 1 cross 1 meter, right, area, and I will be focusing only on that. So this is imaginary, right? Imaginary, I have fixed the volume, and now within that span of 1 meter, I will put all the scanner, temperature scanner, pressure scanner, and I will measure the pressure and temperature, right, in that particular domain. And I can say these are the net effects in properties which are taking place due to the airflow in the given domain. And based on that domain, I can expand the study to any kind of area. I can go to 100 cross 100, because I know the elemental behavior of the flow, so I can extrapolate that to any amount of area, right, for the open case flow, right. So system can be defined based on two things. Either you can define that as a certain quantity of matter, or you can define a region in space chosen for study. So keep in mind, when you are defining just a quantity of matter, right, where you are focusing the attention, then this will be called as closed system, because mass is fixed in this case. So only energy can transfer or cannot be. That will depend on the boundaries or properties of boundary. Sometimes boundaries are insulated, then energy cannot cross that, right? So mass and energy both will be fixed then, right? Then it will be something called isolated system, where no mass or no energy transfer take place. When you are defining this as a region in space, then it is definitely an open system where energy and mass both can transfer across the system boundary. So this is a system, something called system, and it is enclosed by a boundary. This is a boundary. Now think this is a boundary, whether boundary is solid or it is a fixed or it is imaginary. Boundary can be imaginary, right? If you are fixing certain region in space, that in that case boundaries will be imaginary, right? If you are considering a chamber, right, closed container, then boundaries will be rigid, right? We know the boundaries now, so boundary will be rigid. So in the case of closed system, we know the boundaries, right? But in the case of open system, we are just putting certain region in space, and its boundaries may be imaginary, right? Now boundaries can be fixed or movable, right? Like piston cylinder device, if you look at, right, three side it is fixed boundaries, but fourth side where piston is moving, that is the movable boundary, right? So whenever there is a movable boundary, that will help us to produce the work, right? When piston moves out, right, that can be connected to some connecting rod, then flywheel, and we can get the work output. Like in IC engines, you might have studied about that. So whenever boundaries are movable, right, in a closed system case, we can get the work output. If all boundaries are closed, in that case there will be no work transfer, right, because boundaries are not moving. But in the case of open system, as we have fixed the certain region, when you fix the region, that means boundaries are not movable now. Boundaries are fixed, but those are imaginary. As they are imaginary, any energy or mass can cross those boundaries, right? That can go across the boundaries. So keep in mind, surrounding is something, mass or region outside of the system is called surroundings, and system is enclosed by a boundary. Boundary, the real or imaginary surface that separates the system from its surroundings, and boundary of system can be fixed or movable. All right. So based on this definition, which we have covered here, certain quantity of matter or a region, we can, divide the system into three category, right? One is called closed system, all right, open system, and third one is isolated system. So closed system, open system, and isolated system. So take one example. This is a piston cylinder device, right? It is a closed system basically because all boundary it is enclosed by the boundaries. Even but piston is movable. It can produce the work, right? But it still is a closed system because mass is not going to vary. Only volume will change because in this case volume is less. When piston is moving up, its volume will increase, but mass still is 2 kg. So any system for which mass is constant, right, and energy may or may not cross the system boundary, such kind of system is known as closed system. And it is an open system, and open system in that both mass and energy can cross the system boundary. Such kind of system known as open system. So this is also a closed system case, right? This here pictorial views are showing only the closed systems. So in the closed system, mass will not come out, only energy may or may not cross the system boundary. That depends on the properties of boundary, right? Whether boundaries are insulated or boundaries are diathermic. If it is diathermic wall, it will allow the heat to go out, right? So in that case, energy may cross. So closed system, generally we say that it is something which mass is not going to change, but energy will cross the system boundary. So pictorial view you can present in this way. It is a system where heat and work can enter and can go out of the boundaries, but it is having a fixed mass. And open system is something where both can cross the system boundary. So this is the pictorial presentation. So mass is entering and mass can also go out, right? Heat enters or heat can go out, or work. You can supply the work and you can take out the work. So this kind of situation will happen with the open system. An isolated system is something which is not going to interact with the surroundings. So that is only possible if there's a no mass or energy interaction, right? From system to the surroundings. That means this boundary of the system is basically completely insulated. So we can consider the ideal thermo flask as one of the example, but in reality, no system is fully isolated. Keep in mind, but we can make some approximation, right, to reach near to the isolated condition. Next one is phase, right? When you are defining phase, right? So phase is something which is having homogeneous chemical composition and physical structure. That is known as phase. So phase definition defined like it is a substance, right, which is having homogeneous chemical composition and physical structure. So any substance can exist in any of the three phases. What are the three phases? Solid, liquid, or gas, or solid, liquid, or vapor, right? So any substance can exist any one of these three phases. Now, based on these phases, also you can subdivide the systems, right? Homogeneous system or heterogeneous system. Homogeneous system means it is a system which consists the substance of same phase. If it is a liquid or liquid, both are there in same container, then it's a homogeneous system. If it's a liquid and a gas, right, it is having two different phases. That means it is a heterogeneous system. So based on phases also you can define the types of systems. So as I said that now we are talking about the open system. So open system be defined like something we are fixing certain region in space. When you are fixing certain region in space, that means that is a control volume basically. You fix the volume and that boundary of that volume is surrounded by a boundary that is called as control surface. So the control volume approach is applicable only to the open system. So you look at the pictorial view here. So here we are having tap here, through that cold water it can come in, right? And after that it get heated up here, and then you can get the hot water out of this tap. So this is one example of open system, right? Even though we are providing the tap on both cases, so there will be certain mass of flow which is coming in and it can go out. And if we consider the boundaries as insulated, then okay, there is no energy transfer, right? But energy can go, right? Energy, low energy fluid can come and high energy fluid can go out. And the boundary of it is enclosed by some imaginary boundary, right? This dotted line, this is known as control surface, and this is the control volume, right? So we are focusing our attention only here and here. This is the inlet and this is the outlet. So whatever equations that you will be applying, that will be applying only at inlet and outlet, right? So you will be focusing only at this boundary, right? And this is certain region that you have fixed. all right, for your study. And such kind of approach is known as control volume approach. So it is the volume of fixed shape, size, and orientation through which fluid flows, right? So both mass and energy can cross it. So control surface. So this control volume is surrounded by some surface that is known as control surface. So the control volume and control surface forms the basis of analysis of an open system. So you have to select properly select the region, right? Let's suppose you want to do the analysis of a gas turbine plant. So gas turbine plant is having total four components, starting from compressor, then combustion chamber, turbine, then your nozzle. If nozzle will not come, then another heat exchanger through which your gases are coming out. So you are having total four components. So each component you have to analyze separately, right? Like if you are analyzing just compressor, that means that compressor need to be enclosed by the boundary, right? So compressor is your control volume and outer boundaries will be the control surface. So in compressor there will be inlet and outlet. So you will be just focusing on inlet and outlet. You are not bothering what is happening to the boundaries, because boundaries are fixed there, right? Just what energy is entering, what energy is going, you get the energy variance out of it, then you predict what is happening. And as this is an open system, no energy will get accumulated within the system, because certain mass is coming and certain mass is going. So it is not going to accumulate anything in that. So in between, if something is losing, that means it has been converted into some other form of energy, right? Let is a compressor, right? It requires energy, right, to for its operation. So whatever loss happened, that happened because of it was requiring some energy for its operation. So that is called work input. If it is a turbine, in that case, that energy might have been extracted as mechanical work, right? Rotational work. That rotational energy can further convert it into the electrical energy with the help of a generator. So, so keep in mind, open system will not accumulate anything. So whatever loss is happening, that may be transformed into the another form of energy. Initially, it may be a kinetic energy, then kinetic energy might have been converted into the mechanical energy, or it is a heat energy. Heat energy further may be converted into the work, right? Work, the mechanical work. Now, next topic is the properties of substance. So when we are talking about properties, right? Properties like when we are buying a mobile phone, we look for what all main features. Those features are nothing but property of this mobile phone, right? So property is something. It is any characteristics which describes the state of system, right? State of system is called properties. So familiar property, usually we talk about pressure, temperature, and volume and mass. So these can be considered as some of the familiar property, or you can say these are the fundamental properties of any kind of systems. So properties are considered can be considered as intensive or extensive. There are two kind of category: intensive or extensive. So when you are talking about intensive properties are those are independent of the mass of the system. Those doesn't depend on the mass of the system, such as temperature, pressure, and density. These are intensive properties. When you're talking about extensive properties, those properties who depend on the mass of the system, those properties are known as extensive properties or total properties. You can say total volume, total energy, or total enthalpy. Total enthalpy. Those are known as extensive properties. There is a third category also, that is called specific intensive property, right? That means per unit mass basis you can define. So specific properties like extensive properties per unit mass. So you can say specific heat, specific enthalpy, specific volume, right? That can be defined. Those can also be considered as intensive properties. When you are writing extensive properties per unit mass, they will become like intensive properties. So specific properties can be treated as intensive properties. So this is the pictorial view, right, of classification of properties, extensive properties and intensive properties. Properties which depends on the mass are extensive properties. Those who are independent of the mass are known as intensive properties. Next one is state, path, and process. So we defined energy like energy is something which is having ability to make the changes, right, to any of the properties of the system, right? Like any closed container will have initial pressure, volume, temperature. If we are adding some heat, then pressure, temperature, volume may change, or any one of this property may change If that is going to change, it will have a direct impact on, another property. If your temperature is increasing, pressure will also rises up, because we know the standard equation, right? P is equal to rho RT, or PV is equal to RT. When pressure goes high, temperature also goes high, relatively. So that change will happen because of the energy interaction. It may be heat, directly heat supply, or if you're supplying the work also, sometimes work will also make the same sort of changes. So first is the state. When you are defining the state, how will you define the state? You will define the state based on the properties of the system. So the state or condition of a system is defined by its macroscopic properties, right? And this can be represented by the points. Look at in this diagram. This first point is the state one, and this second point is the state two. So here, let's suppose pressure, volume, temperature are P1, V1, T1. Here you can say P2, V2, and T2. Right now, depends on the process. Either the last condition will be lower than the first condition. That will define later on. So state will be defined based on the properties of system. Second one is change of state. Any operation in which one or more properties of system changes, right? That is known as change of state. Last, next one is path, right? Path or process, we can say the series of changes, right? If we are going from here to here, that is the one change. Then from here to here, like that, there are n number of changes which will be taking place between state one and two, right? So the series of states through which the system passes during a change of state from initial condition to the final condition, right? That is known as path. Next is process. When you are defining the process, means when path is completely specified. When we are saying that this operation is happening when pressure is constant, we can say it is a constant pressure process. So process is when we are specifying the path completely, right? That is known as process. So process may be of any type, right? Depending on the condition which you are monitoring. Either you are keeping pressure constant, or you are keeping temperature constant, you are keeping volume constant, or chances are there you are not allowing any kind of heat transfer to take place, right? Those kind of, monitoring parameters you are doing, based on that you can classify the processes. So next one is cycle. So cycle is something, it is a combination of processes in which end of the one process is the beginning of the next process, and it operates in such a way that the initial and final states of the systems are identical. So let's suppose it is having total three paths. You look at, we are going from 1 to 2, then we are coming from 2 to 3, and finally we are going from 3 to 1. So this complete combination of three paths, basically, or three processes, are making a cycle. So in that, initial and final states are identical. When initial and final states are identical, that means there is no net change in any property of the system. So if we are saying any process is happening in a cyclic way, that means there is no change in any property of that cycle. We can say so. So a system is said to have undergone a cycle when its condition changes from its initial state through a number of pulses and finally returns to its initial state. When initial and final states are the same, in that case, there will be no change in any of the energy of the system. Clear or not? Any doubt in this?
No, sir.
Okay, so we'll go to the next. Now we'll define the processes, right? So first process, right, called quasi-static process. When you are defining quasi-static process, that is also known as quasi-equilibrium process or reversible process. A process which occurs at very slow rate. So you look at this diagram. So process happening
Sir,
between, yes.
sorry to interrupt, but can you please go a bit slow, sir?
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
So okay. So quasi-static process, right? When you are defining any process which is happening at very slow rate, right? At very slow rate, when change of state is taking place from point 1 to point 2. So let's suppose this is the change of state which we are expecting to be happened from 1 to 2, and in between there are n number of intermediate states, right? These are the intermediate change of states, right, represented by the lines. So any process which occurs very slowly while making a change of properties from point 1 to point 2, so that every state passed through by the system is an equilibrium state. If you want to measure the change in temperature or change in pressure between these two states, that will be negligibly small. Negligibly small. If any process occurs in that much slow rate, that process is known as quasi-equilibrium process, quasi-static process, or reversible process. Why do we say that a reversible process? By a smaller amount of gradient of force from point 2, we can reverse the direction of the process here because it is happening at very slow rate. So you can reverse the direction of process. All right. So such kind of process is known as reversible process or quasi-static process. So this is the general definition. When a process proceeds in such a manner that the system remains infinitesimally close to an equilibrium state at all times. Infinite slowness is the characteristic feature of quasi-static process. So this engineering analysis, whatever concepts you will be applying, those are applicable only to the system in equilibrium or the process which are happening at very slow rate, right? Such are known as quasi-static. So such process consists of a series of equilibrium states, right? And its path can be represented by a continuous line on the state diagram. So only quasi-static process you can represent over the thermodynamic diagram, either pressure versus volume or pressure versus temperature or temperature versus volume by a continuous line. All right, so take the example of this pictorial presentation. So let's suppose this is the piston and cylinder device. So initially you applied some weight over the piston, then slowly you have removed the weight. Now piston is moving very slowly, right, from this first position to the second position. From this end to this end is going at very slow rate. So in that case, what will happen to the properties of system? Properties of system will also vary very slowly, right? So this process can be considered as quasi-equilibrium process or quasi-static process. Instead of that, if you are applying force all of a sudden and the piston is moving all of a sudden from this point to this point, then this cannot be considered as a quasi-static process. And if any process which is happening at a very fast rate, right, that process we cannot define on the thermodynamic coordinates. So non-quasi equilibrium process you cannot represent over the thermodynamic coordinates. If you want to represent, you can just show 2 points, 1 and 2. That two dots can be drawn, but they cannot be connected because it's not a quasi-static process. So only reversible process can be shown on the property diagram. Non-reversible processes cannot be shown on thermodynamic property diagram. So here, any doubt?
No, sir.
No,
Okay.
sir.
So reversible, irreversible process, it is clearly defined. Any process which is happening at very slow rate or any system, right? Any process which occurs in such a way that every state passed through by the process is an equilibrium state. Such kind of process known as reversible process. And opposite of that is called irreversible process. So reversible process, you can summarize in this way: process that can be reversed without leaving any trace on the surroundings. Both system and surroundings can be returned back to its initial state, right? With the very infinitesimal amount of potential at the end. Such kind of process known as reversible process. Second, so this is one example, pendulum, right? So just you give initial some displacement, after some time it again return back to its original position, right? And so this process can be considered as a reversible process. Next one, types of processes. When you are talking about types of processes, I said there will be some controlling parameters. Either you can control the pressure, you can control the temperature, you can control the volume, right? You can control the temperature, you can control the heat flow. So based on that, you can subdivide the processes into 5 or 6 categories, right? Like constant temperature process, that is also known as isothermal process; constant pressure process, that is known as isobaric process; constant volume process, that is known as isochoric process; and constant heat means there is no heat transfer involved, that is called adiabatic process. So isothermal, temperature constant, right? Isobaric, where pressure remains constant throughout the changes; and isochoric, or we can say constant volume process, in which specific volume remains a constant throughout. And adiabatic process is something where we are not allowing any kind of heat transfer to take place, right, between system and surroundings. Such kind of process known as adiabatic process. Polytropic is called general thermodynamic process. Any general thermodynamic process can be represented by the polytropic process, and for which there is some standard equation PV to the power n is equal to constant, where n is called polytropic index. So based on the value of n, we can define these all processes. If you are putting n is equal to 0 in this equation, then it will become P is equal to constant. That means pressure is equal to constant. So we can say isobaric process. If you put n is equal to infinity, in this case, right, it will become the constant volume process, right? Similarly, if you are making like n is equal to 1, in this case, it is PV is equal to constant. That is called as isothermal process. So all these processes can also be derived from the general thermodynamic process, which is represented by the PV to the power n is equal to constant, which the name given to this process known as polytropic process. So reversal process already we have defined, so no need to repeat it again. It is a process which can reverse its direction, right, with a smaller amount of pressure gradient at the end of the process. So these are some of the examples, right, of reversible and irreversible process. If you're talking about reversible process, it is a frictionless relative motion when there is no presence of friction. In reality, this is very difficult to attain. Still, some friction will be there, but we can reach approximately to this kind of motion. So this can also be considered reversible motion. Expansion and compression of spring, right? Frictionless adiabatic expansion or compression of fluid, polytropic expansion or compression of fluid, and this is the type of process, right? Isothermal expansion or compression of fluid, electrolysis. These are some of the examples of reversible process. Irreversible process, which occurs at very fast rate, right? Or you can say the heat transfer with some finite temperature gradient, right, is known as irreversible process. So these are some examples, right? Relative motion with friction, right? Combustion. How combustion start? It occurs at very fast rate. In your IC engine, right? The moment you are, starting the spark, right, within the mixture of fuel and air, all of a sudden there will be starting of combustion. So combustion will start with like an explosion. So it occurs at very fast rate. You cannot reverse it. So this is called irreversible process. Diffusion process, right? Free expansion, throttling, and electricity flow through resistance, heat transfer, particularly heat transfer direction you cannot reverse. Plastic deformation, if you're keep on applying the forces or stress on a particular solid, if it is going to deform, after its elastic limit has been achieved, it will not return back to its original position. And that process is also one example of irreversible process. So that's all for today. So if you're having any doubt, I'm open for your queries now.